I got this new coffee table to put in front of my sofa here. Let's open it up, put it together, check it out. You can see that it comes really well packaged. Let's get rid of all this stuff and get all the parts out. And then I'll go through the process of going through the instruction manual here and making sure I do it properly, so then I can just show you on video and you don't have to do all the reading. Let's make sure we got all the parts we need. First, we need 4 of these legs, one of these large tabletop panels, one of these panels that's a little over 19.5 inches, a smaller panel that measures about 12 inches, 2 of these panels right here, and these ones measure about 18.5 inches, 2 of these panels here, the ones with the slots in them on top right here, a panel here that's a little bit longer in this direction and measures about 19.75 of an inch, and another large panel here that's just smaller than the really big one that I showed you earlier. We should also have 2 of these lifters right here that will be used to lift the tabletop. As for the hardware, we should have 4 of these solid wood foot connectors, this bag of 48 bolts, a bag of cover-up stickers that match the wood grain, a 2-sided wrench, and an Allen wrench or a hex key, a pack of 4 of these silicone pads, 10 of these wooden pins, 10 of these larger bolts, 16 of these derrick screws, along with 16 of these matching eccentric wheels. And we also got some spare parts over here, more wooden pins, derrick screws, and eccentric wheels. Okay, so if you have all those parts, then you're ready to start putting together. Let's get started. So for step 1, we need our 16 derrick screws. I'm gonna put them in a bowl for ease. We need our hex wrench, because that also has a Phillips screwdriver on it. So first we need the 2 boards that have the slots in them. We're gonna lay them down with these holes on them facing upwards. And I'm gonna lay these down on this nice blanket I have here to avoid scratching or damaging them. We're gonna need the taller board that I pointed out earlier, as well as the 19.5 inch board. And remember these 2 smaller boards that were the same length? On the long sides of them, one of them has the holes right here and one of them doesn't. But on the other side of the boards, they both have them. We need the board that has these holes on both sides. And for that board, we're gonna put in our derrick screws here and here. So we take the screw, we can start by hand and then drive it in with the screwdriver. And you wanna drive that in until it's flat against that surface. Let's do it over on this one too. And then it should look like that. For the longer board, same thing, 1 screw here, 1 screw here in the middle. And just make sure that you get a good vertical start on them so they go straight down into it. And if you're struggling to get leverage with this screwdriver here, let me show you how I'm doing it. I'm placing it in between those 2 fingers like that, and then closing my thumb around it and driving like this. That's the best way that I've found to do it so far. Now for this larger board, we have holes here, 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 and up here. So we need 4 derrick screws for this one. Now we need to take these boards that have these slots in them here and put in the derrick screws here, 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 and here. Okay, I have all 4 in this one, as you can see, and now I'm gonna do the same thing for this one up here. Now for the next step, we're gonna move 1, 2, and this bigger board right here off to the side. And we're gonna work on these 2 boards right here that we already have the derrick screws in. Plus we're going to add back in that board that's the same length as this one right here, but didn't have the slots on top. So we're working with these 3 boards right now. And we're going to need our 10 wooden pins. And if we flip these boards up on their edges, we'll see that they have all these multiple holes here to put the pins in. However, we only want to put the pins on the inner holes here. So this one here, 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 and this one here. Let's put in those wooden pins. And they just simply press in like that. And you'll see how that looks right there. Now remember, this one board here flips over and it doesn't have any slots on this side. So we'll put that one off to the side. These 2, however, will flip over and you'll see more slots. Now again, we're gonna take our wooden pins and put them on the inside slots. So they look like that. Now we collect our little bolts and our 2 lifters. And you can tell the left one and the right one apart by lying them flat with these pneumatic tubes upwards. And the left one will actually make an L and the right one makes the backwards L. Now we take the board that we put the wooden pins into, the one that doesn't have slots on one side, and we're going to line up our left lifter with these 8 little holes right here. We should have it lined up looking like this, with these brackets matching the holes and the wooden pins facing downwards away from that lifter. Now we're going to connect them with our little bolts. And you can see I'm going to start off slowly by just putting them in partial way until I have all of them in. And I'm starting with the 2 outer ones here before adding the 2 outer ones over here. Now that I'm confident those 4 are lined up, I'm going to add the inner 4 bolts. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now that they're all in, I'm going to tighten them all up. And honestly, at this point, my hands are getting really tired from using this right here. I'm going to go get myself a screwdriver from the hardware store to make it a lot easier. Okay, so I went and just got a simple Phillips head screwdriver like this. Should make the job 100 times easier. I'll start with this screw back here. And yes, you can see how much easier this is going in now. And there you go. At the end, you should have all those screws nice and tightly wound in so that this stays nice and firm. Okay, so of the boards that we've still been working with here, we want to grab the small one that has those 8 small holes on it, just like the last one. We line up the lift arm just like before and continue screwing in our tiny bolts part way, starting with the 4 corners to make sure that it's properly aligned. And then we can move on to those 4 inner bolts. And you'll see here that I'm actually holding this down because if I don't, it'll wobble around a little bit, and that makes it a little more difficult to get these bolts into place. So make sure you're holding it down flat, and then it makes it easier to screw them in. And there you go, all of them look good. Now I'm gonna go around and tighten them all up. And once I have 2 corners done, you'll see that it starts to lay flat itself, and I don't have to hold it down anymore. There you go, all the bolts are in and it looks nice and solid. The next step is pretty easy. You're just gonna need this wrench here, and we're gonna look at the lifting arms, and you find this bolt right here on the end of the pneumatic. We're gonna loosen that bolt. Once it's loose enough, you can just finish it off with your fingers until we take it all the way off. Now we just pop this arm off like that and move it upwards into this position right here. So now it should look like that. To make sure we don't lose the bolt, I'm just going to lightly put it back on that screw. And we just want to do that to both of those arms there so that they're pointing up like that. Now we take the second largest board that we have here, and we find that one side has a line of holes on it on one side and a line of holes on it on the other side in regards from the distance of the hole to the edge. So we have a narrow side and a wide side. And on the narrow side over here, we're going to use the right lifter, as in your right-handed lifter. And we're going to align the holes on that so that the board here is going to go to the outside. This will put the lifter on the inside of the table. Once we have them lined up, we'll start screwing them in one by one, just part way. And I like to start with the 2 outer screws to make sure that they're all lined up. And I can see the drill holes through all of the slots, so I'm going to tighten up these 2 screws and then start inserting the rest of them in place. Okay, those are set. It's looking sturdy. Let's get the rest of these screws in here. Okay, they all look good, partially in. Now we're going to tighten them up. Okay, now those all look good. We're going to do the same thing for the other side. And now that those all look good, we can return the pneumatic bar over to this side. Unscrew that nut there that we put on. And to return this onto the bolt, we just give it a little bit of a push and slide it on. Then we take that nut and we screw it back on. And then make sure to retighten it. Okay, now you can see that I have both sides done here, including these bolts being tightened up on these arms. And now they should be able to move like this and this. Now we're going to grab our 2 boards with those notches in the middle, and we're going to apply them to what we have built over there. And for that, we're going to need 8 of the eccentric wheels. And we're going to place the eccentric wheels into these holes right here. And on the other side, these holes right here on these boards that are on the lifting arms. Now what we want to do is find this notch right here, and we want to place it so when the screw goes into this hole right here, it will drive into that notch that we see on these eccentric wheels here. So I'm going to have this notch facing out and push it in this way. And then it should look like that. And let's do that for that one, and then go to the other board and do it for the outside, where you'll find the holes here and here. Now that we have 1, 2, and 3, 4 eccentric wheels ready to go, we're going to place this board into those slots. So you're going to line up your derrick screws and push them in with this notch facing downwards towards this table. Now we just take our trusty screwdriver and give them a slight turn until they're nice and tight. It's only about a 1/4 or a 1/2 turn till that happens. Super easy. So we've gotten this far. Now we just take the other board that looks like that one right there, and we do the same thing on this other side. And there you go, that's how it should be looking at this stage. For the next step, however, we can go ahead and move those arms down so it looks like a closed box like that. You'll see on one side there's no derrick screws sticking out. For the next part, we want to find the side that has the derrick screws sticking out like this. And we're going to take the smallest board that we have, and we're going to end up connecting it onto those protruding derrick screws. Of course, these holes first will need their eccentric wheels. And again, make sure to put the notches in these eccentric wheels facing the derrick screws. And then insert the derrick screws into the board and tighten them up. That should be pretty solid. Mine is. Now we go to the other side of that board and put 2 more eccentric wheels into these holes here. And we want the notches in the eccentric wheels facing outwards. This one too, facing outwards away from the board. Now we go back to this piece here that had the wood pins and the derrick screws facing out of it, the longer board. And when we're installing this board here, we want to make sure that this piece right here for the eccentric wheel will go down at this time. Insert our derrick screws just like before, and now tighten those up. Now we're going to take our largest board here, along with all 10 of these bolts, and we're going to set it down onto the completed frame here. And we should be able to get these wood pegs to pop into place on the holes on the bottom of the big board here. And there you go, it should look like that. And you want to make sure that the side of the board facing up right now is the one that has these holes on it. But for now, we want to take these bolts and drop them into these holes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now we're going to go through and tighten all those bolts up using this end of the hex key. The bolts should look nice and tight like that. Now let's do that for all the rest of them. And be sure that you're making these tight, but not too tight. You don't need to over tighten them. You don't want to crack the wood. Now we're going to take these right here and we're going to line them up with these screw holes on the bottom here. And there's only one way that they're going to line up with them, and that's with this thicker part right here pointing in towards the middle. Just like you can see this one here, the thicker part pointing in towards the middle. And we want to place these on all 4 of our sections here. And once you have all 4 of them ready, then we're going to go to the rest of our screws like this, and we're going to screw them in place. I'm going to do them one at a time, just putting them in partially. And then once I think they look good and they're all going in straight, then I'm going to tighten them all up one by one. And I'm going to do it in a star pattern. Okay, looks good. Let's do that for all 4 of them. So here we have all 4 of these foot pad holders screwed in and ready to go. You can see the screws flat against the surface here. That means they're ready. And then we need to get these 4 leg pieces right here, and we're going to screw them in by hand until they're nice and tight, each one of them, all 4. And then we're going to take these silicone foot pads and we need to peel back this cover and then just press them on and hold them down for a couple seconds until they're nice and stuck on. Once those feet are all glued down and ready to go, then we can flip over our table so it looks like this. Then we grab the remainder of our trusty eccentric wheels and we're going to place them on this hole here, this one here, and this one here. And we're going to want that gap there facing upwards. Now we're going to take our final board here and drop those derrick screws down into those holes where the eccentric wheels are at. And now we got to go and just tighten those up. Now we're going to take our little covers here and cover up all the holes on the inside there. And we're going to do that for all of those holes, including these ones back here and these ones inside the table right here. Okay, so this is what the coffee table looks like when everything's good and done. You can pop up the table like this, and even me at 6'1", this is a good height for it. Ready to eat, ready to work, whatever I want to do, right from my sofa couch.